Well, here we are now for the keynote speaker. I am very pleased to introduce our keynote speaker today, Kimberly Sherman Stamler, President of Related Beal. Kim oversees all of the development property for Related Beal and has built a $2 billion portfolio of projects in the Boston area in various stages of delivery. Throughout her career, Kim has been responsible for more than $5 billion worth of development in virtually every sector of the real estate industry, including acquisitions, financing, development, with oversight on leasing, marketing, and sales. Kim has worked on the expansion of Related into the Chicago area and was the executive of the development of the Clarendon in Back Bay, beginning her work on that project in 2003. Kim has skillfully integrated the Beal companies into Related Beal, which is now a major participant in real estate development across the greater Boston area. Kim graduated with a Bachelor of Art degree from the University of Pennsylvania with a major in urban studies. She sits on the boards of the Rose Kennedy Greenway Conservancy, the Habitat for Humanity of Boston, and Non-Traditional Employment for Women, NEW, is a David Rockefeller Fellow through the Partnership for New York City, and is a member of the Sam Zell and Robert Lurie Center for Real Estate at Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce our keynote speaker. Kim, please come.
Thanks, Tom, for that terrific introduction. It's great to be here today, and it was so terrific to hear all the panelists talking about everything that we all have to look forward in 2017. So my name is Kim Sherman Stamler. I am the president of Related Beal, which is the Boston office of Related Companies. And today I'm going to talk about who we are and what we're doing here in Boston, and what we're seeing in Boston, and I'm going to talk a little bit about one of our projects in New York, Hudson Yards. So Related Beal is the Boston office of Related, and Related Companies was founded in 1972 by Stephen Ross on affordable housing. The affordable housing business is still a very big business of ours, and we continue to build, own, and manage affordable housing throughout the country, including here in Boston and in the Commonwealth. And the company evolved over time to include market rate housing, commercial, mixed-use developments that many of you might know us for. Time Warner Center is on the bottom right. We built the Clarendon in the Back Bay, and we are under construction of Hudson Yards on Manhattan's west side. We are located throughout the country. Our office here in Boston is one of few in the major markets in the country, and we have international presence as well. The Beal Companies was founded about a decade before Related in 1878. It is a fifth generation family company that many of you might know the Beals as great as stewards of great architecture and philanthropy and arts and community. They were one of the earliest developers of the life sciences projects, life sciences developments out in the suburbs and subsequently in Cambridge and now in Boston. And are big, and were big, and now we continue together to be big in the adaptive reuse sector. So in 2003, Related and Beal partnered on a project called, the Clarendon in One Back Bay, which is located in Boston's Back Bay. It's 500,000 square feet of condominiums, rentals, both of which have an on-site affordable housing component atop a retail base with a post office and a restaurant that you've probably had drinks at or been to called Post 390, and parking. This was a land assemblage with Hancock and the United States Postal Service, and we relocated the Postal Service back into the building upon completion. So this project, we worked together, Related and the Beal Companies, as partners in the development, and subsequently in 2013, we became one company, Related Beal, as the Boston office of Related. It's not so coincidental that our companies have like-minded visions. The president of Related in New York is Bruce Beal, who is the son of Bruce Beal, whom we call Senior, and Robert Beal is Bruce's uncle. Both Robert and Bruce collectively have, we like to say, 100 years of real estate experience in Boston, and it is truly terrific to get to work with them and be together as one company. So in talking about what we're doing here in Boston, both sector and location, we created this map to show where we are. We're in the residential, commercial, hotel, mixed use, and life sciences sectors, active in these areas in different neighborhoods in Boston. And I thought that I would focus on a few of our projects a little bit more in depth, starting with the North Station. So we have 3 buildings right now in the North Station totaling about 1 million feet, including Converse's headquarters, residences on Lovejoy Wharf, and our Parcel 1B project, which is in the North Station, right near these other 2 projects across the street, and is our affordable and workforce housing project with a hotel component over 93. So the North Station submarket, as the panelists discussed earlier, is one of the great examples of transit-oriented. I can't say it's totally an emerging market because obviously the North End has been around for quite some time, but with the new parcels born out of the Big Dig, we've seen a lot of new development over there in the last couple of years, of which we are one, and with other many developers, including Boston Properties, who just announced some of their newest developments in North Station, really taking advantage of this great location and the transit-oriented area here. So we viewed this area as one that we obviously wanted to get into, and we did so at first with our project called Lovejoy Wharf. Lovejoy Wharf was, well, it looks like this now, looked like that when we bought it, and was formerly vacant for quite some time before we purchased it. The building was built in the early 1900s and sits on a wharf that was dilapidated for quite some time and never really got into active use. So one big piece of our projects is always public realm and how we're going to engage both the users of our buildings, but also people who are coming by our buildings if they're not living there or working there. And this was a great example. The wharf needed serious repair. This is the view here coming from Charlestown out to the wharf. And we were able to first renovate the wharf and with our construction of Converse's headquarters, really complete the public realm, the bridge, the last piece, or one of the last pieces of the Harbor Walk connection. So Converse saw this building as an opportunity for some of the pieces that the panelists were saying earlier today, where it was an older building. This building was built in the turn of the century, which is right around the time that Converse started, essentially, so kind of a nice marriage there. But they were looking for a product that was transit-oriented, was newer on the inside, but had that sort of older feel, and we were able to reposition and renovate the building, adding a 4-story curtain wall box and, of course, the Converse sign, while adding the amenities that Kristen and the panel talked about earlier today. And they subsequently brought in a total of 700 employees from North Andover, and on the wharf is also Converse's retail and their Rubber Tracks recording studio. Adjacent to Converse's building is Lovejoy Wharf, which are residences, residential condominiums. This project is designed by Robert Stern, and as you can see, it's sort of a combination of the newer curtain wall and the brick buildings that harken back to Boston and the North Station area. This building is almost complete, or almost complete. We'll start our sales efforts soon, and here's a view from the interiors out looking out to the water, and here's one of our earlier images of what the residents will enjoy in their units. So in looking at this area, we saw an opportunity to build a critical mass of workforce housing right across the street from our Lovejoy Wharf development. This development, Parcel 1B, is a 500,000 square foot development over 93, containing 239 units of affordable and workforce housing and a 220-key hotel, which will be a Marriott Courtyard. This has been touted as a complex development, and it was, and it is. There were a lot of moving pieces that required attention from various agencies, about 25 city, state, and federal agencies, because we're building over 93. We have a lot of different uses and a lot of different programs here, but one thing I want to emphasize is the collaboration that occurred between the city and the Commonwealth. I think it's one thing to talk about goals and timelines, and it is another thing to actually roll up your sleeves and do it. And we were very fortunate to work with the state and the city and various stakeholders to get this project going and out of the ground. And we're looking forward to delivering it in the first quarter of 2018. So one thing about workforce and affordable housing that we get asked a lot is, who's living in the buildings. So this project here will range in the area median income from 30% to over 100% of area median income. And we will have studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. And it was important for us to have 3 bedrooms for families, especially considering this location in downtown. And so that's the librarians and firefighters and the construction teams that are working on the job, and we're very much excited about bringing 239 units to downtown Boston to achieve the goals of the workforce and affordable housing. So the picture on the left is of the hotel, sort of standing just to the right of where the new Bobby Orr statue is, looking back. And the picture on the right is from the Greenway perspective, looking out to the Zachem, and that's the portion of the housing. The housing portion is just to the south. This is showing our deck over 93, and this is one of the rooftop amenities that the residents will enjoy looking south to the Greenway. So in line a little bit with what the panelists were speaking about earlier, taking old buildings and repositioning them for new tenants, TAMI tenants, tech tenants, other tenants, I thought I would go through some of the examples of the things that we're doing and who we're seeing coming into these buildings. The left picture is the Grain Exchange. That's related Beal's office. You might know that our building, it's in the financial district across from the aquarium. You might know that as the building that gets wrapped with the red bow every holiday season. The middle is the Arlington, which is located in Boston's Back Bay and is 128 residential units. And the building on the right is Congress Square, which is our new building, or our old building that we are repositioning in downtown Boston. So here's an example. So the Grain Exchange was built just sort of in the turn of the century, a little bit earlier, late 1800s, and it was actually originally used as a grain exchange building for receiving and trading grain. And the building, while the Beals, now related Beal, have been in it for quite some time, we recently repositioned and renovated the entryways and the common areas. We put a Julian Opie right in the lobby when you walk in, which has really resonated with both visitors and tenants, and it's something that you can see from the street, kind of opening up the building onto the street a bit more. The Arlington was built in 1928 and was formerly the Boston Gas Company's headquarters, later positioned into a charter school. And when we started our work on the Arlington, it was no longer a charter school, it was a closed school. So we got to take advantage of some of the depth of the building and some of the sort of existing envelope in order to create amenities that ultimately, when we talk about the amenities in the buildings for both commercial and residential, we often talk about the millennials and what the millennials are looking for, but really everybody is looking for the same opportunities. So while we add extra outlets for all the charging stations that need to be done for iPads and laptops, in the party rooms and in the lounges, so that we can have different sort of seating areas outside of your home, we find that the empty nesters are taking advantage of similar programming by having cocktail parties in the common area and then going back upstairs to their apartment without having to worry about hosting in their home. So this is an example that we were able to take the basketball court of the old school and reposition that a bit into a larger basketball court with some lounges on either side. So Congress Square is in the financial district on Water and Devonshire Streets and Congress. And this building, we're excited about all of our buildings, and this one is currently under construction. It is quite a feat because we're taking Fidelity's former headquarters, we're repositioning the building both in the interior and at the exterior to accommodate the floor plates of today and the cores of today, all while adding a 6-story curtain wall box that we are going to outfit with rooftop amenities for today's users. So what's great about projects like this and like Converse is the conference rooms and the user space is both older and repositioned and then new with things like the curtain wall additions that we've made. And we recently signed Digitas as our tenant here, and we have some square footage left to lease, but the change in this building is that when it was Fidelity's former headquarters, it was primarily used by Fidelity and didn't have as much outward retail as the retail that we're putting in. By bringing Digitas and remaining square footage and creating 40,000 square feet of retail at the base, in addition to Quaker Lane, which is essentially an alley that runs from Congress back into some of the, a different alley. We're going to reposition that to have outdoor cafes and restaurants that you can sit outside on, and that will really welcome street goers and passerbys into the Quaker Lane so that the whole building is really open for all. And we're looking forward to delivering that in 2018. So some of the other current projects that we're working on, we acquired a portfolio from BU, the top left, in the summer of 2016. The middle photo is our Quinzani parcel, which is a Robert Stern design building in the South End that we are currently working on. That will have both rental and condominium residences and an on-site affordable housing component. On the right is the dry dock building that we acquired at the end of last year. That is out in the seaport in the Marine Industrial Park, as are the photos on the bottom left and right of our Innovation Square project, which is a ground-up life sciences development. And the middle two are photos of a garage and hotel that we purchased last year. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that Related's doing throughout the country, including at Related Beal, and one of those is our vertical integration platform. We are developing throughout the country, and the way that we sort of organize and operate our company is that while we're always working with outside consultants and specialists, we have those specialists in-house also, and we have created different businesses in order to allow us to do that. So one example of our vertical integration is our curtain wall factory in Pennsylvania, where we employ 450 people, and we essentially manufacture curtain wall both for our developments and for others. And we saw a need in this business and in this industry, and for curtain wall specifically, and it was great to be able to roll up our sleeves and figure out how we were going to get it, and if not get it easily, then how were we going to do it. So that's an example of something that we're doing at our company. Our construction teams are on site, so all of our jobs are staffed by our construction teams, which really allows us to have sort of literally boots on the ground so that we can keep on track and on target with what's going on in the market. And we have various strategic affiliates, including Equinox, SoulCycle, and Motivate, that help inform some of the decisions that we make in terms of what's going on in various markets and what the trends are in different areas. So Equinox became part of Related in 2006, and SoulCycle subsequently became part of Equinox. And Motivate is the operating company for all the bike share systems that you see, or for some of the bike share systems that you see, including City Bike in New York and Hubway here in Boston. And Related is invested into that. So I thought I would talk a little bit about Motivate, because I think that some of these statistics are very interesting for how cities are changing today, whether it's transportation or access or how people are moving around either to the office or home or from meeting to meeting. So Hubway is the bike share program in Boston, which many of you know. Hubway celebrated its 5th birthday in October of 2016 and carried its 5 millionth ride. Hubway riders took over 1.27 million trips in 2016, shattering the record set in 2015 by more than 130,000 trips. Hubway added 30 stations, bringing the grand total to 185 stations with more than 1,700 bikes. Hubway expanded its winter operations over the past few years in recognition of the fact that Boston area residents bike year-round. Hubway currently has over 14,300 annual and monthly members, almost 700 of whom are enrolled in Boston's membership program for low-income residents, and its corporate membership grew 15% in 2016 and now includes 275 organizations. So just to bring it back a little bit, to tie in what we're doing and what we're seeing, including what the panelists and Jim and Tom talked a little bit about earlier today. So while a lot of people are sort of talking about trends and sort of what's happening and what they're seeing, a lot of what we're seeing in Boston we don't view as trends. We view as here to stay. So while I feel like every day we read different headlines about what's going on in the markets or in the housing markets and the number of cranes that are up in the air, Boston is a place that, with the new development, brings new opportunity. So whether it's affordable housing or low-income housing and workforce housing, market rate, some of the sort of critical mass developments that we're doing, or some of the sales that you read about in the paper, the individual condominium transactions, the more housing that we have, the more choice and opportunity people have to decide where they want to live in the city, whether it's the type of housing or the neighborhood. And as Brian Golden, as we heard him say, that with Imagine Boston 2030 and with the plans that the city is outlining for new developments, we're well underway. There's a lot of talk often about the millennials and what the millennials are looking for, and that's a great submarket or a great group for us to have, talking about the meds and eds, graduating from college and staying in Boston with over 50 universities here, and the empty nesters who are looking to come back into Boston and live in Boston full time. And then there's also the population in between that is the Gen X population plus, so 30s and 40s and 50s, who are really taking advantage of everything that Boston is offering now. So I thought it was terrific that the mayor announced earlier this year about the increase in the residential tax exemption for city homeowners. We just talked a little bit about the hubway opportunities. Boston has one of the highest walk scores at 98. There was an article yesterday about how, for pedestrian safety, it's one of the most safe for pedestrians. And things like the city council passing the acoustical capabilities for restaurants in Boston, those things make Boston a place that people want to be and a place that people want to stay. And I think that offering opportunity for so many different options here, I don't see that as a trend. And that, of course, begets the companies that want to be here, and this is, of course, just a sampling. But when we think about the companies that are coming to Boston, Converse, bringing 700 employees in from outside of Boston, and Digitas making a statement or moving into a statement building here in Boston and downtown, what I think is so terrific is the variety of industries. So it's the tech industry and the life sciences industry that Boston is so known for. That's never going away. The healthcare industry is such a strong base here. But to have the companies that have been here for so long continuing to expand into new buildings, into different buildings, and of course the announcement of GE, and as Jim was talking about earlier, the sneaker companies, New Balance and Reebok and Converse, it's many different industries that really appeal to different generations in the workforce and different types of jobs. So to have such a diversity in job sector married with what's going on in the residential and all the city's offerings, we think makes Boston a great place to be. So Tom asked me to talk a little bit about our project Hudson Yards in New York, where our partner is Oxford Properties of Canada, and we are building that currently under construction. It's the United States' largest private development in history, with 18 million square feet, over 28 acres, and probably every use you can think of in commercial, residential, hotel, public realm, and retail. This is an image of what the yards will look like upon completion. The location is on Manhattan's west side between 30th Street and 34th Street, from 10th to the river on 12th Avenue. And when we were building so much square footage and so many different buildings, sort of a city within a city, the opportunity to differentiate the buildings from one another lent itself to having multiple architects on the jobs in different buildings and as different parts, so that was an important piece to us. An important piece of getting the yard sort of started and underway was the infrastructure that the city and state invested into the area in the form of the subway station coming over, the 7 subway line opening up in 2015, and the investment that the city made into Hudson River Park and the High Line and Hudson River Boulevard, the Javits Center, the convention centers to the north. So that was important for us to get started. Like Parcel 1B, Hudson Yards is built on a platform. We wanted to build the first phase. It's a 2-phase project, essentially, although it really does feel like one phase. But it was important for us to start the first phase all at once. And we started the first building, the Coach building, in 2013, and recently completed that building in 2016 with occupants in the building now. So just going back to the concept of the 21st century office and what it means when the stock is getting older and the people who you were trying to attract for your talent want new and different things. The CEOs that are trying to attract top talent need the top buildings to do that. And we found that the sort of 20th century office was really resonating with the tenants and the the potential occupants that were coming our way as they met with us in Oxford in order to occupy these buildings. So 10 Hudson Yards is on the left. That's Coach, L'Oreal, SAP headquarters, and that completed in 2016. 30 will complete in 2019, where Related in Oxford will put their offices. And we recently announced BlackRock at 50 Hudson Yards, and 55 Hudson Yards is another office on the eastern yards. The western yards is the second component that will complete in 2025. Two of the residential buildings at Hudson Yards include 15 Hudson Yards, which will have probably the highest sales and per square foot sales in the city, sort of hovering around that very top dollar. But I wanted to point out that 15 Hudson Yards will also have a sizable on-site affordable housing component too. And 35 Hudson Yards will have both housing and our Equinox Hotel flagship hotel, and that will be complete in 2019, of residences and an Equinox Hotel. All of these buildings will enjoy the benefit of about 1 million square feet of retail and restaurants, and about 100 different retail stores and restaurants. And most notably, or as notably, Neiman Marcus, which is opening its first New York City location upon opening of the retail, which will coincide with one of the residential buildings. And just bringing back to sort of what I was talking about earlier in Boston, where the infrastructure and the opportunity for engagement, not just by the users of the building, is so important to us as a company. The public space here totals 14 acres. Part of that will be a Thomas Heatherwick sculpture, which will be right in the middle of the yards. It's meant to be sort of an interactive sculpture and an engaging piece of art, so that when people come to the yards, they're not only coming and going, they're coming and staying. The Heatherwick is 16 stories, 2,400 steps, 80 landings, and 154 connected flights. So the purpose here is to really engage and to give people a vantage point of Hudson Yards and of the city from different points in the vessel, and will also sort of welcome visitors 365 days a year. Other examples of the public realm are the Culture Shed, or the Shed, which is a retractable shed that can host events like Fashion Week and other notable events. And there's the public piece of it, or the green space that is ensuing throughout the entire development. So just bringing it back to Boston, like I started with, we're so excited about everything that's going on in Boston. Like I said earlier, we don't think it's a trend. We think it's here to stay. The cities, the companies that are coming in, the buildings that are going up, the opportunities on the residential side, and all the developments and the great developments and the work that everyone in this room is doing really has and will continue to make Boston the great place that it is. I want to thank you for the opportunity, Tom and Jim, to be the keynote speaker today, and I look forward to seeing you all at cocktail hour. Thank you.